West England, and I'm the national lead for our carers programme. I've seen a lot of very familiar names popping up on the guest list today, which is great, but also lots of new names. So welcome to anyone who hasn't joined one of our events before. So this particular series of events, today is the first of these. It's first of our bi-monthly lunch and learn, obviously a bit of a late lunch today, and learn sessions. And one of the things that's become really clear to us over the last almost 2 years now with the pandemic going is that there has been some fantastic work going on that sometimes can be a bit hidden. And we wanted to take the opportunity for you to join us, meet some of the regional leads for our carers work. You're going to be meeting Sally in just a moment, and get to hear about some of the fantastic things that are happening within their regions as well. So great to have so many of you with us. It's, like I say, the first time that we've done this. We'll be doing them every 2 months going forward. If you know of projects or pieces of work that you think would be valuable for us to showcase, please get in touch, and I will ask either Sharon or Helen or Steve to put our team email in the chat box for you. As we go through the presentation, there will be an opportunity to ask questions at the end, but if things come up during the presentation that you want to sort of put a bookmark on, if you could put those in the chat box, and then Sally and I will be passing your questions on to the team from Lancashire Carer Service and Encompass as we go on. So I'm not going to talk anymore, which people will be mighty pleased to hear, I'm sure, but I'm going to hand over to Sally Crichton, who's our regional lead for the carers in the Northwest. Sally, thank you.
Thanks, Jen. Good afternoon, everyone. As has already been introduced, I'm the carers lead for the Northwest on the Commitment to Carers programme. I've been in post about a year now, and I've been linking in with lots of great carers work across the region. So if there's anything that I may not know about, or people want to get in touch with me, then please do, because I'm always really interested to hear about things that I don't know, and joining up the dots and trying to sort of facilitate integrated working. So that would be great to make some connections through today's session. But today, this afternoon, I'm really pleased to introduce Colin Bowman and Sean Scott to you from Encompass, who are a leading provider for carers in the Northwest and other regions. They actually currently provide support to approximately 40,000 carers, and like other carers organisations in recent months, have been working really creatively to reach out to more unpaid carers in different ways. They've become a digital pioneer with their recent work for Healthier Lancashire and South Cumbria, and also recently have become a nominee for the 2021 Health Service Journal Awards under the System-Led Support Carers Award category. So without further ado, I won't go on for too much longer either, but I will hand over to them and let you learn about the brilliant work that they've been doing over the last few months.
Thank you very much for that, Sally. As Sally mentioned, my name is Colin Bowman, and myself and my colleague Sean are here because we really wanted to sort of showcase some of the work that we've been doing around that sort of digital support offer for carers. And my colleague Sean now is going to be bringing up our presentation that we're going to be sharing with you today. Next slide, please, Sean. As Sally mentioned, we're from an organisation called Encompass, and we were founded back in 1999 on the Fylde coast. And we were originally an advocacy service that supported people's voices to be heard. We've now obviously migrated, and as you can see from the map on screen, we are now providing a number of different services across the Northwest and North of England to really help people regain control of their lives, providing hope and a sense of purpose. And we do this through providing carer support, advocacy, well-being, counselling and volunteering services as well. And right at the heart of what we do is we deliver excellence by building on people's strengths. So again, even though we originally operated in Lancashire, our geographical footprint has extended to Cumbria, Merseyside, Greater Manchester, Cheshire and Staffordshire as well. Next slide, please, Sean. So as you can see, we're here today to talk to you about our carers support. And these are the different areas that we actually operate in. So we do operate services within the Cheshire East, the Rochdale, the Bury, Staffordshire, Lancashire, and Carlisle. So as Sally mentioned previously, that now equates to over 40,000 unpaid carers that we actually support. Next slide, please. So the reason why we developed our carers community network was based upon a number of really different factors. We had a growing amount of feedback from carers who mentioned that due to their caring role being 24 hours a day, they couldn't leave their homes and access some of the face-to-face support that was actually already on offer. We were also made aware that some of our carers may live in a rural location, which meant that accessing face-to-face support, which was primarily in city centres and urban areas, was sometimes either impractical, expensive, or it was actually impossible for them. At the same time, in developing our carers community network, COVID-19, the pandemic, struck. This meant that all of our face-to-face support had to cease, and it was necessary for us to be able to provide a much more intensive digital support. In addition to this, we were starting to receive feedback from parent carers and working carers saying that they were looking for a lot more support outside of those traditional office hours. All of this led to us to believe that we'd identified a gap in our digital provision to support carers. So in obviously developing this project and this carers community network, we went about by making sure that we engage with some key people and partners. So one of them was our Citizens Involvement Board. So this is a board within the organisation of Encompass, in which we invite carers and service users to participate in, and then they're able to give their own unique input, which helps us develop projects going forward. We were also able to consult with carers, and we did this through our peer-to-peer support groups, which we call Coffee and Chats. And again, the carers were able to obviously feed into and help us shape what the carers community network looks like. In addition to that, we have well over 100 volunteers within Encompass. So again, through our sitting in service, in which volunteers take a very strong lead in, and our Carers Help and Talk line, which is a volunteer-led support telephone line, we were able to again really feed in their sort of views and thoughts about developing a network. And finally, as we always do, through our regular network meetings, we wanted to hear the thoughts and ideas from our partners and stakeholders to make sure that again, you know, we developed something that was going to be relevant as well. So now what I'm going to do is pass over to my colleague Sean, who's going to be able to talk about some of the functionalities of the Carers Community Network, just so that you can get a flavour as to the experience that a carer would receive when accessing the network.
Thank you, Colin. So as Colin has just said, I'm going to talk through some of the key functions of our Carers Community Network. So the network is an online platform designed for socialising, peer-to-peer support and access to advice and information. To join, a carer will need to be registered with Encompass. They will need to have access to the internet, and they'll need to have a working email address as well. There are two main ways of accessing the network. Firstly, through a computer or tablet, and secondly, through the network's smartphone app. So this is a picture of how the navigation menu looks on the app, and it's how the carers can move around the network. So from their home screen to seeing which other members are close to them, to viewing topics or accessing events. This third picture is just another screenshot of how the app looks on someone's phone, and this represents some of the topics which are chat rooms on the Carers Community Network. So essentially the network is a notice board with chat room functions for carers to socialise with each other. We've divided this up between what we call topics. So these are some examples of some of the topics that we've created. These ones represent some of the caring roles that carers using the network have. So just as an example, we have one topic for autism, Asperger's syndrome. We have another topic for carers to discuss any issues around their caring roles with dementia. We have a topic for mental health carers. We have one for parent carers. We also have our most popular topic, which is the lounge. So this is to discuss anything carers want to talk about, really. So there's lots of interesting conversations about what people have been enjoying doing during their weeks, what they've been watching on TV, and what they're looking forward to in the future, really. We also created a really interesting topic which came about during the first national lockdown in the UK. So what we found was carers were talking quite a lot about leaving the house and going for a walk, taking that one daily exercise trip that you were allowed doing back there. They were also talking about what they'd been doing in their gardens. So we created this space so that people could share photos and talk about the wonderful outdoors things that they were interested in doing. We also recruited a volunteer nutritionalist, and she helped us set up a topic called the Food Corner. This is a place where carers can talk about what food they enjoy eating. They can swap recipes. There's also a section in there around nutrition, which is really useful for carers and for the cared for as well. Our most recent topic that we've created is young adult carers. So we just felt that for carers aged 18 to 24, it would be great if they could have a space where they could come together and chat about anything they wanted to, really. So we wanted to share some of the peer-to-peer support that we've seen through the network. So these are taken directly from the network. We've just removed the names where we don't have permission to share them, to share their names. So we had one post from a carer who said, "Hello, does anyone have the same problems as me? My husband seems to have lost the use of his legs. He has vascular dementia. Is this the result of this? I just don't know what to do." And quite quickly, the carer had a response back from another carer on the network. "Hello, I too have this problem. My husband has MS and falls a lot. He wears a little alarm around his neck, or I do. If he falls, I press the button on it and the little box of tricks in the lounge calls them through the phone line. We've used them a few times at all hours and they've been very good." A third carer came on board. "Hello there, it's a real problem trying to keep our men safe. I've tried to put things in place, folding stool in the shower, plus grab rails, stair lift." A fourth carer replied, "Hello, my husband has Parkinson's and freezes a lot. He wears a lifeline which sets an alarm if he falls. It is attached to the phone and the firm can send someone to help your husband up. The service is free. My husband was referred to the falls team, which provided the alarm." So the original carer saw all these responses and replied back, "Thank you so much. This might explain the reason why he's been falling so much. I'm talking to the doctor later on today and we'll mention the alarm, which sounds ideal." So we saw this as a really great example of peer-to-peer support that also showed that the conversations people were having online were affecting what they were doing in their real life too. So the original carer had got feedback from their peers, and she'd gone out and made an appointment with a doctor and asked for a specific piece of support. Another example of peer support that we wanted to share. Quite a new carer again left a message. She said, my name is Cheryl and my husband has Parkinson's and I have to do everything for him. He sleeps a lot. I feel very lonely and isolated at times and I just want someone to talk to. So a carer quite quickly replied back, sorry to hear you're having such a tough time. My husband's had Parkinson's for 17 years. He relies on me a lot. I've joined a virtual choir on a Monday, which I can do and still keep an eye on hubby. Let me know if you'd like details. Another carer came and said, I used to look after my mum who had vascular dementia. I found it very hard and I felt all alone. Now I look after my wife. And a final carer said, hi, life is very challenging, would love to keep in touch. I am a carer for my autistic ADHD partner. I don't know much about Parkinson's, but talk anyway, get it all out. So we just saw this as another wonderful example, but this time of carers expressing feelings of loneliness and isolation and how connecting online can make a real difference with that. This next slide is just a picture of how the posts look within the topics for the carers when they're on the network. So with this example, we had a carer reply to a conversation that had been going on for roughly 2 months between two carers. And she said to them, I've been reading the messages between Pat and Christine. They're so touching that I'm sat here in tears. What lovely ladies you both are. Your husbands are very lucky to have such kind, devoted wives. My husband was diagnosed with early dementia 3 years ago, so I'm now on the scary journey of being his carer, thinking of you both. Take care. So the really interesting thing about this post was we're now 5 months down the road, and this carer who left the post has now become part of a triangle of the 3 carers who have become friends. They keep in contact with each other pretty much every week. The messages that they leave each other are probably best described as almost like an old-fashioned pen pal letter. And the most recent communication that we've seen from them was that they were arranging meeting up in person at Christmas at the end of the year. So it was just lovely to see that being able to connect online can make some real friendships. So we also thought it would be a good idea if we shared one of our case studies with you. This story is from one of our carers who's called Karen, and Karen has given us permission to share this information with you. Karen's husband had a serious accident and was hospitalised just over 4 years ago. One of the results of the accident was that he suffered memory loss and loss of cognitive function. For Karen, she said the demands of her caring role were similar to those of maybe looking after a baby, being that she wasn't able to leave her husband on his own anymore. Karen had been feeling increasingly isolated. She felt that all her focus was on her husband and that she had nothing for herself. When the Carers Community Network was launched in March 2020, Karen became involved firstly with our Wednesday evening general knowledge quiz. She described this as being a weekly highlight. And over the coming months, Karen said that the quiz and those who attended had become like a little family, and that her husband would sit with her and could occasionally help her with some of the questions. Karen's also joined some of our online exercise classes. She told us that the network has given her respite from a caring role. It's provided friends and also a support network, which she said was particularly needed when she was having a bad day. Interestingly, Karen also reconnected with an old friend when they both realised that they'd registered through the Carers Community Network. Another function of the network that we're really pleased with is the online activities that we're able to provide. So, as Colin mentioned earlier, with COVID-19, it meant that our face-to-face activities and support came to quite an abrupt halt. So we managed to put lots of activities digitally, and we advertise these to carers through the Carers Community Network. So some examples of the events that we ran, we had a meditation and relaxation session that took place fortnightly. We had carers gentle exercise sessions, again fortnightly. We had a weekly coffee and chat, which was specifically for carers supporting someone around dementia. We had a carers sing-along every Wednesday. We had what we called Frank's Walk a Mile Club, which is gentle exercise and some chair-based exercises too for people to join in with. We also ran a generic coffee and chat for carers, one on a Tuesday evening and one on a Wednesday morning. Our most popular activity was our weekly general knowledge quiz, which was Wednesday evenings. And we were also able to run some training sessions throughout the last year and a half. So our Connect 5 mental health training workshop for carers is one example of those. We had some feedback from a carer near the start of the launch of the network, and what she said was it was fantastic that services were offering online activities, which a lot of people were doing. But she said it was really difficult to keep track of all the Zoom links. She said she'd been trying to go to some events, but had lost track of the email with the Zoom link. So what we did on the network was we set up one area where you could log in, you could view which activities were available over the coming week or month. You could click on a picture, see a little bit of information about the activity, and in there would also be the Zoom link. So it was a nice, easy way of accessing our online support. This next slide is a video where Colin is speaking to one of our carers, Judith, about some of the impacts that the network has had on herself. Colin will then move on to talk through some of the data that underpins the Carers Community Network.
Yeah, hi Judith. Could you just tell us a little bit about your caring role?
Yeah, I cared for my mum. She had a stroke in 2017, so it's just over 4 years I've been caring for mum. Sadly, she was left paralysed and basically requires me to care for all her needs 24 hours a day.
Okay. And Judith, could you just tell us a little bit about the difference the Carers Community Network has made to your caring role?
The communities meant that I can actually meet up with other people online because I can't get out due to my caring role. But 24 hours a day, I've got access to other carers, to events like the coffee and chat, the quiz, which I've found really helpful and wouldn't have been able to do because I can't leave my mum.
How has the sort of digital support that's been available differed from that sort of face-to-face that was there pre-pandemic?
For me, it's been invaluable because even pre-pandemic, I couldn't get out. So having that online platform has really meant that I can talk to people and sort of feel involved with the community rather than feeling so isolated as I have been previously.
And one final question, Judith, is if you could obviously speak to professionals or other carers.
Sorry about that. I think there was a little bit of a problem with the video. I'll just try and skip it to the part that we left.
Professionals, again, I think it's a great platform for the community to keep you involved. The occasional messages they send out, and the frequent reminders about things or ideas for events is really useful, and I think professionals could make good use of such a network.
Thank you so much for that, Judith. Yeah, thank you very much for that, Sean. That's wonderful. So, as Sean mentioned, I'm going to sort of move now on to some of the data that underpins some of the network. And, you know, what we thought is we would actually start with some of the qualitative data, because for us that's really important to really get an understanding as to, you know, some of that sort of real, honest feedback from carers. So one carer's put, just knowing somebody is around picks me up, knowing I'm not the only one struggling helps too. Another carer's put, this network has helped me feel connected and reduced my stress during lockdown. I look forward to new posts, pictures and recipes. Another carer's put, this network means that I can connect with other carers without having to come to coffee and chats. I really value this. I owe the staff of the network a great deal for their understanding, kindness and help pulling me through a very tough part of my life, caring for my wife. Unfortunately, I can't always make meetings due to my caring role. This network means I can still receive support and know I'm not alone. It makes me realise I'm not alone with feelings of stress and anxiety. And the Carers Community Network saved my sanity several times when no one else could help. So again, really honest, you know, feedback that there is a benefit in obviously the network and obviously everything that it provides. Next slide, please, Sean. So again, going on to the more quantitative data, we felt that this was really important, not just showing you the functionality of the network, but actually providing some evidence base to be able to support obviously some of the outcomes it's been able to achieve. So as you can see from this graph, membership began at 0 back in March 2020 and has been steadily rising month on month. We now have over 1,200 members on the network as of September 2021, and we believe that there is continued scope for continued growth due to the large number of Encompass services footprint. As Sally mentioned right at the beginning, we have over 40,000 carers that are registered with us, so we know that potentially there is more growth there. And then as more growth happens, obviously more connections are made, more relationships is made, and you know, hopefully that those stress levels and anxiety levels with carers can obviously be reduced. Next slide, please. Yeah, this graph shows the highest activity between the hours of 9 AM and 5 PM, Monday to Friday. However, what's really important here is that we actually show that there is a significant use of the network in the evening, which is outside of the office hours and also on Saturday and Sunday, supporting that input that we've had from carers previously who helped develop the network, that where they told us that more support is needed outside of those traditional office hours. And then on the graph on the right, what we show is that peak activity on the network tends to be that sort of morning and afternoons again, but there is evidence to show that people are using the network in the evening as well. Next slide, please. Yeah, what we thought with the graph on your left is it's the actual data is very similar to the data from the previous slide, but both graphs show that the carers are using the network throughout the day and night, however in smaller numbers. If you look at from Monday at midnight through to 2 AM on a Tuesday, what we see is there is a spike actually of network use. And we are aware from speaking to carers that some carers report that providing a caring role through the night and at these times experiences difficulties when having to try and get back to sleep and feeling socially isolated, that they are actually going onto the network. They're going onto network to check what's going on. So we believe that being able to connect to other carers through our network 24 hours a day can alleviate some of that isolation there. On the right hand side with the pie chart, what we see is that there is a fairly even spread of activity across the network, with Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday being our most popular days. And this again coincides with where our activities that Sean alluded to earlier, a majority of our activities are on Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday. So even though we saw some activity on Saturday and Sunday, shows continued use of the network, supporting that input from carers at the development stage, that they are looking for outside support and support outside that Monday to Friday. Next slide, please. Sorry, next slide, Sean. Okay, so here we conducted a community carers community network survey this year to see obviously how people felt about using the network. So as you can see, we asked the carers how easily they found using the network, and what we found is the majority of carers said they found it easy or very easy to use. And on the right hand side, when we asked carers what they enjoyed about using the network, you know, there was quite an even spread across the responses of chatting to carers, other carers, online activities, accessing training courses. However, responses for the reading information, such as articles, was by far the most popular out of the things that they could answer. Next slide, please. So on the left-hand side, we asked the question, how often do you use digital technology to communicate? So we asked this question before they used the network, and 22% said never, 16% said rarely, 3% said monthly, 16% said weekly, and 41% said daily. We asked them that same question after they had started using the network, and what we'd found is that the majority of responses either stayed the same or had actually increased. So what we'd found is that people were feeling more confident to be able to use digital technology after they had joined the Carers Community Network. So we were talking about things like Zoom, Skype, Teams, things like that. So again, it's really positive to see that the network has been able to obviously increase this uptake in digital technology to communicate. Next slide, please. So here is just a summary of some of the data that we've spoken about. So we've seen steady continued growth month on month. We saw a significant interaction outside of office hours with some level of activity across the network 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We'd also seen carers increase their digital communication after joining the network. The majority of carers found it very easy to access the Carers Community Network. Over 75% of carers said that they enjoy accessing the network, accessing information provided on the network. 76% reported it making a difference, and 73% said it helped them looked 73% said it helped them to look after their own well-being. Next slide, please. Yeah, so we're really happy to share the news that Encompass was nominated for the work that we've done over the last 2 years around our digital offer. Firstly, we've been nominated for the Ability Net Tech for Good Awards, and I'm delighted to say that we were successful in winning our category of the Community Impact Award. And as Sally alluded to right at the beginning, we've also been nominated for the Health Service Journal Award in the category of the System-Led Support for Carers. And we've been invited to attend the award ceremony down in London on the 18th of November. And we're really looking forward to seeing if we've been again successful in winning our category. Next slide, please. So here's information regarding Encompass. Please, by all means, get in touch if you are wanting more information around the Carers Community Network. Please look on our website, which is www.n-compass.org.uk, or give us an email. Please follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Again, you know, we have regular posts going out as to what we're doing as an organisation. Next slide. And thank you so much for taking the time to listen. We really appreciate it, and we look forward to answering any questions that you may have.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. There was a huge amount of content there. I've been scrolling through the chat box as you've been speaking, Colin and Sean, and I'm going to do an apology in anticipation as well, that my dog, because you can't see him at the moment, but he's made it up onto the desk and is sitting in front of me. So apologies if he decides to woof. I will mute myself immediately if he does. He is a serial desk invader and it gets very annoying. But questions, there's a lot in there. I've tried to sort of cluster them in themes as they've been coming up. Some lovely comments as well, and that people have loved the topic areas that were being covered. It said about how many carers had signed up for that. I think you said it was 12,000, didn't you? And there were a couple of questions around how many young and young adult carers are included in that.
Sorry, Jen, just it's 1,200. We're hoping to get to 12,000 at one point, but at the moment it is steadily increasing to 1,200. Sean, do you want to talk about young adults?
Yes. Sorry, could I get you to repeat the question? Was it just young adults that they?
Yeah. So young carers and young adult carers. It was a question about the numbers of those and how they're included.
So with young carers, the majority of the carers services run by Encompass are adult carers. So with the network, it's 18 and above that we have people joining for. We do run some young carers services, but their support has been separate from this carers community network. In regards to young adult carers, the number of people joining the network has actually been quite low. So that was one of the reasons why we developed the young adult carers topic. We felt that actually a separate space where people could talk about maybe some issues and some interest to them that would be different to perhaps carers who are 40, 50, you know, up to 80 years old. It just seemed like a nice idea. So part of what we did around that was we recruited one of our young adult carers to help us develop that section, really. I think I said in the presentation it was our newest topic that we've created, so we're very much seeing it as a work in progress and trying to offer more to that age category, really. Yeah.
Thank you. A couple of questions about how the platform and the work has been funded and what I guess the sustainability is around that as well would be really interesting to know.
So we've received some funding. I don't fully have the details of it, but it was part of a meeting we had with one of our local universities. Encompass is a regional charity, so we work on applying for pots of money to provide the services that we do. That's one of the reasons why the Carers Community Network is accessible for the footprint that we cover, whereas it's not at the moment a national offer to carers. Part of one of the reasons why we really wanted to talk through this meeting was we think giving a digital offer is a really great idea for unpaid carers, and the potential there is for it to be national as well. I think I saw a question as well pop up around whether there was a cost for carers to join. Because our services are funded by local authorities, actually to the carers there's no cost for them to access our Carers Community Network. All they need to do is to be registered with one of our services.
Brilliant, thank you. And then a couple of linked questions, I guess. One, someone had asked about how do you know who's signing up is a legitimate carer? So who approves their access to your platform? And then the second question was really around issues that might arise out of some of the peer-to-peer messaging, and how's that moderated to make sure that people aren't straying into potentially dangerous advice to each other that's, you know, based on personal experience rather than necessarily safe things to do.
Yeah, I don't mind picking this one up, Sean. So for people to access the network, they have to register with our service, which means that they have to, you know, and so that's obviously, you know, go through our whole registration process. So the network is not open to the general public to be able to obviously go on. So obviously, you know, they would register with us as a carer. They would get contacted by our service access team. So there would be a little bit of work prior to them accessing the network, and that would be through our policy and processes, and that we would obviously ascertain to make sure that they are obviously a carer. We do have a number of hosts, what we call hosts and moderators, who again are frequently on the network. So again, you know, they have been specifically trained to look for obviously any types of safeguarding issues or anything around safety and stuff to flag up. And you know, one of the great things about the network is that has, depending on whether you're a host or a moderator or anything like that, then that sort of permissions level and that sort of you know, technical side, you do have a few more functions that you're able to sort of tap into to be able to make sure that the place, the network is safe and it's moderated and all of those things. So it's something that we take very seriously, because again, a lot of these people could be potentially vulnerable people, and we want to make sure that they're as safe as possible. So there are policies and procedures in place if anything came upon the network that was worrying, and that would be flagged up.
That's brilliant, thank you. Quite a few questions around whether it was a local or national service, but you've been very clear that it's in a very sort of specific area. And I think there've been a few references to things like the Carers UK online community and Mobilise that are national. But what for me feels like a real point of difference is that ability to signpost very accurately to local information. And to how much does that sort of side of your platform get used?
Yeah, just going back to some of the feedback that we had from carers using the network, I think it was over 70% was saying that they enjoyed reading some of the articles or also some of the posts from the other carers. We believe it's quite a big part of the network, the signposting. Locally, we come into contact with lots of other, especially third sector charities, and we just promote the alternative support that's out there. So one example would be a carer asking about what day services are available for their partner who's got dementia or Alzheimer's. And it's a great thing about the network that as long as we've got a digital leaflet, we can put that up within the network and tell people how they can find out more about it.
Brilliant, thank you. You've obviously said that you have different services as well, and that a question has come up about, you know, the carers who don't have digital access and the support that's offered to them. I'm just also interested generally in terms of accessibility and how you've made the platform as accessible as you can.
It's a really good question. It's a really good question. So I think when we put together the network and we're aiming for launch, our focus was on the smaller number of carers that couldn't get to our face-to-face support, but especially with COVID, meaning that it was now a need for all our carers. That question around what happens if you're not, if you don't have access to the internet or a computer, or you don't have the confidence to use any of that technology, that came up as an issue quite quickly. Locally, we were talking to some of our partner organisations and stakeholders. So locally in Lancashire, Age UK were doing a smaller piece of work around getting equipment to people that had never used that technology before. It's something as an organisation that we're aware of, and we're looking at seeing if we can get funding to roll something out across our patch. But again, it's still a work in progress, really, and it's something we hope we can develop in the future.
Thanks. And I think that we've probably seen that come up a lot in various parts of the country, and actually it's kind of encouraging that there's that potential collaboration with other groups like Age UK. If we're looking at how integrated care systems are supposed to be working going forwards and how localities are going to be working together, that really kind of exemplifies, doesn't it, the opportunities of working with different groups and organisations. And actually standing on our own isn't always the best thing to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just checking questions again. There were people saying, are you willing to work with our other people in the country so you can share what you're doing? And obviously we will share your slides at the end so people will have your contact details, but nice that that's come up. And someone else asking if the phone line that's you talk about is free.
So I think the phone line is a 0333 number. So and again, you know, what we're seeing is you know, the pandemic has had a big impact, obviously, in people using that service to be able to reach out and just to be able to obviously offload around how their caring role is affecting those. So again, we wanted to make that as accessible as possible. And again, what we can do is provide details around that as well.
Brilliant. I can't see any other questions. If I've missed your question and you'd like me to add it in, would you use the raise your hand icon? And I don't know, Sally, if you've seen anything else that I've missed.
No, I was just looking, actually. I think we've covered all of the themes. I think so.
Oh, I can see hand up.
One just come in.
So Lee, if you'd like to ask your question.
Sorry, I couldn't write in the chat for some reason, so I apologise. It was just a very quick question around when someone's caring role ends. How does that work? Are they able to stay as part of the network?
Yeah, I mean, as far as we're concerned, then once somebody has you know, ended that caring role, they still have a so much experience and so much knowledge around their caring role that they wouldn't, you know, they would be still very welcome onto the Carers Community Network to be able to offer that peer-to-peer support. As a service, you know, we would support carers for at least up to 2 years after, you know, they've become a former carer, or you know, somebody has sadly passed away. So again, you know, we want to utilize that experience and knowledge that carer has built up over their caring role, and actually, you know, hopefully use that to help other carers, really.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
That's brilliant. And there was a piece of research done a few years back, wasn't there, by the Open University, that looked at the health and well-being of carers after their caring had stopped. And actually it showed that the impact of caring stayed with them significantly for a long time afterwards. very often because they got in the habit of not taking care of themselves and have become more isolated. So really good to hear that there's that continued support there. Any further questions?
Jen, did we address the peer-to-peer question about?
Yes.
Yeah, we did. Okay.
Yes, did. Yeah, we included that with the moderation bit. Any other questions?
There is a question in the chat box, Jen, from Jenny Wood. It's towards the bottom, around champion moderators or moderators on the 24 hours a day.
Yeah. Oh, right. Oh, yes. So I guess building on that question about moderators, thank you, Steve. I've just seen that. Again, looking at safeguarding and with people being able to access the platform 24 hours a day, how is that sort of picked up on that basis?
Yeah, Sean, do you want to pick up on that one?
I was just going to mention that currently we don't actually have 24-hour a day moderation. I think the latest that our moderators go up to is 9 o'clock in the evening. So this does leave potentially a gap around that. What we found over the last year and a half, though, is the safeguarding issues, the very small number of them that have been picked up as potential safeguardings have been dealt with really, really quickly. We were also a little bit concerned when we first launched the network. How would the people using the network be communicating with each other? How would they be treating each other? Would there be any moderation around that, around abuse or language? Thankfully, we haven't found any problems with that since we launched it, really. So that side of things, it's been fantastic. I think when you compare the network to maybe a more open social media, ours is private. You need to be a carer and you need to be registered to join. So being able to moderate user behaviour is much easier and quite different to one of the worldwide social media platforms, really.
Thank you. And I think that's a really important point, isn't it? That it isn't the type of platform that someone can go on anonymously like they could with Twitter or Instagram or whatever. So the issues are going to be quite different. So thank you. That's really good. I'm just doing a last quick scroll. I think if we've got any other questions, what we can do is collate them and make sure that we cover answers when we send out the link to the film of this as well. One last question I can see here from Shirley Islam is, how do you work with families as part of the hospital discharge process, outpatients, to help them identify as carers and then use the services?
Yeah, so that's a massive part of our role, mine and Sean's role is, and we've just come from that Sally's been to is we're working very closely with our local sort of hospital trust, Lancashire Teaching Hospitals, around things, like our carers forums and things like that, just to again to properly educate, obviously, them around identification and support and knowledge, really, around offering that support on discharge. And we've got some really nice sort of exciting things that potentially coming out of that collaborative work that can have a real impact. And so it is a big part of what we do, and we're often talking with discharge coordinators and obviously staff members within hospitals, and because what we want to do is make sure that those carers who are leaving with their loved ones feel properly supported, knowing who to contact, when to contact, and you know what I mean, have that really sort of holistic support, not just from the NHS, but also from a carers organisation as well.
Brilliant, thank you. And I think there have been sort of some comments asking, quite a few comments asking about numbers and proportions of carers. And I think you've made a really good point at various points during this, that it's not about one size fits all. It's about having a diversity of offer for carers. And I'm known for my analogies within my team, and my favourite one is if you went into M&S and only found one size and colour of pants, you'd be pretty disappointed, wouldn't you? So I think what's really great about this is actually seeing how you've responded to a particular need, but then actually looking forwards. It's that sort of realising of the benefits and how those can be embedded. So absolutely, it won't suit all of our carers. Nothing is going to suit all carers all of the time, but it's great to see how you've built this, really embedded it, and are looking forward at how this continues. So I think we're almost out of time. So just for me to say a huge thank you to you both for your presentation, really interesting, and thank you to our participants who joined. Our apologies for the technical hitch that sent some people to a wrong room. Sally, I don't know if you wanted to add any final comments as well?
Yeah, just to say thank you to everybody, and I look forward to seeing how it progresses over the next few months and weeks. And also, again, just to reiterate for people that might not have heard my intro at the beginning, if there's any work or people want to get in touch with me as the Northwest lead for the Commitment to Carers team, then please do. I'll put my link and details on the chat. And if there's any work that's going on or people just want to speak to me, I mean, my remit is around the long-term plan for carers, but also just, you know, everything else around carer really, in terms of how we can link in and join up. So please do get in touch.
Brilliant, thank you. And I've seen a couple of hands appear. We are sort of just about pinging out of time. So if we haven't got to your question, please can you pop it into the chat box for us or email it to us, and we will make sure that we collate that and get Colin and Sean under the spotlight to answer any final questions that there might be. As I say, this is the first of what's hopefully a bi-monthly programme of opportunities to come together, learn and ask questions. Hopefully you found it useful. I found it really fascinating. Colin and Sean, thank you so much for being brave enough to step up and be our first speakers. Really, really appreciate your time, and hugely appreciate the time of everyone that's taken a bit of time out from work, caring, or any other activity to join us this afternoon. And obviously thank you to Sally as well for finding us such brilliant speakers. We will be in touch letting people know future events details, but for now, just me to say have a good rest of the day. Hopefully get out and enjoy a bit of sunshine and fresh air, good for your souls, and we will hopefully see you again soon. Take care. Bye bye.